Welcome back to our study in the book of Colossians. We're in chapter 2. We're going to start kind of a subdivision of that chapter. We've been talking a lot about Jesus Christ and the price he paid on the cross and how that disarmed the authorities of the evil empire, as I like to say. And we are victorious because of Christ. Well, now we're going to shift and understand how that affects how we live. And this section is kind of a subsection of the chapter. In most English translations, it is set apart separately so that you can understand now he's kind of, shall we say, shifting gears, not out of gear, but into maybe a higher gear that we need to apply this message to our hearts and how we live. And here's where we pick up in verse 16. Therefore, no one is to act as your judge in regard to food or drink, or in respect to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath day, things which are only a shadow of what is to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. Paul is speaking clearly to us here and saying that we get caught up in the way we live in the world. And we get caught up with what we eat and what we drink and how we celebrate certain festivals. And he was even speaking to the Jewish population that was there in Colossae who had converted to Christ when he said, in regard to the Sabbath too. So there was strict regulations about what you can and cannot do on the Sabbath. And most of the Jews who had converted to Christianity still held to those principles and to those rules and regulations. And Paul is saying, hey, those things are simply a shadow of what is to come. And then he says, oh, by the way, it came. Jesus Christ is the substance of those. And this is where our Christian brothers and sisters, sometimes in the Messianic movement, kind of, shall we say, slip a little bit because they still hold to this as necessary or as the only way that you're going to grow in your faith. And Paul simply says that Christ has come and Christ is that substance. Jesus said it himself on the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew 5:17, he says, I didn't come to abolish the law, but he says, I came to fulfill it. And of course, the law was the entire first 5 books, basically, of the Old Testament. We call it the Pentateuch. But specifically the Levitical law and the laws and Numbers. Those are the ones that were held very dearly by the Jewish community in a lot of the areas throughout the Roman Empire. And Paul addresses, he says, hey, the substance is in Christ Jesus. In other words, Christ has come and he's what you're looking for. He's what you celebrate. He's why you look and do and act the way you do on the Sabbath. So if he's here, it's been fulfilled. And obviously, because Paul says this more than once in more letters than just to the Colossians, we know that. And of course, if we believe in the authority of scriptures in our life, then we can learn from Paul as he communicates to us who Jesus Christ truly is. But he's saying, don't worry about what you're eating or drinking. Now, obviously, we have to temper our drink, our eating, so that we can be effective physically to do the work of God's kingdom. But it's not a set of legalistics. You don't have to be a vegan, a vegetarian. You don't have to not eat this, or you have to eat this, or you don't have to drink this, or you have to drink that. And of course, some people will take anything to the excess, and that's why they're ill. And Paul says very clearly, he says, don't be governing each other that way. Don't be judging each other that way, but know who the substance of your faith is. It's Jesus Christ. We'll pick up there in our next session.